Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Half Hour. And I'm pretty sure I just made a new friend and we haven't even gone into the interview yet. But today I'm bringing you Chengi Tobun, and she is a relationship expert. She's also a founder of her own organization. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about that. But we are going to have a wonderful conversation today. So welcome to the show, Miss Chengi.
Thank you, Becca. Yes, we kind of made instant friends, didn't we? We're like, oh, we're on the same vibration. Thank you for having me so much. Fantastic.
Yeah. So let's start with a little bit about your background. Right now, you're a leading relationship expert. You have your foundation. So let's tell the audience a little bit about you and how you got to the point that you're at.
Wow, Becca, I'm probably the least qualified person, but aren't we all? What can I say?
Yeah, exactly.
I really was a complete disaster in relationships. I got married at the age of 19 to my first ever decent boyfriend, It was a whirlwind romance, got married. 33, I'm running away with a suitcase of my child. That's kind of the summary of that. You can read between the lines, but I'm out in the world, never known any kind of love, and totally devastated because my whole identity was one day I'm going to be a wife and a mom. And that's it. That was my only dream. There were no other dreams. That was it. And so losing my marriage was earth shattering. It really cut into my identity as a person. And then also having to struggle to raise a child by myself, going through anyone who's ever been through a divorce will tell you that is emotionally harrowing. And then after I settled down a little bit and stopped hating men, I decided, okay, I'll start dating again. And I was a dating disaster. I was awful. I was terrible. I was getting stood up. I was getting lied to, ghosted, everything that women go through right now. It was a culture shock because I'd never really ever been in the dating world.
Right. Well, because you got married at 18.
Yeah,
so
I was
you
so
didn't
young.
experience that.
Zeros. I just thought, okay, I'll find my next husband, shall I? So yeah, it was a complete disaster. And eventually I took a 3-year sabbatical. I was like, okay, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to help somebody lose their mind. So what I'm going to do, because I was always into personal development, I realized if this thing keeps happening to me and I keep repeating this outcome for myself, I probably am the problem. And I don't know where to start, but
That's
it starts
very
with
deep insight. And I just want to hold that for the listeners because oftentimes we'll see a pattern in our life, especially in relationships. That's where it shows it the most.
Yes.
And we'll say like, this person's this and this person's that. And I keep experiencing this and that and this and that. And then at some point, that's very wise to be like, maybe it's me.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that to the listeners too, because that's a very brave thing to do. It's not easy. But if you're listening to this and you're identifying with anything Chengi's saying, just maybe it's an opportunity to self-reflect.
Yeah.
And now continue.
No, for sure. It's so hard to get to that point, and I don't think many ever will. But for me, it was just so painful. It was, I guess, what maybe most people would have been going through in their dating world when they were 18, 19, 25. But I'm 33, I've got a child, and I am devastated. So I thought, okay, I might be the problem. And sometimes we think I might be the problem because maybe I'm a bad person. And sometimes being the problem is being too naive or just not knowing or just having trauma that you haven't dealt with that makes it okay. I was just speaking to a young lady before I came on this call, and she is in love with an alcoholic. I said, oh, bless you. He must have a lot of trauma. She was able to outline his trauma perfectly. So I said to her, what is your trauma? And then she said, I don't have any, she says to me. And I said, oh, I get that. I get that you didn't have like a terrible childhood. She was telling me how lovely her childhood was and everything, but not realizing that for us to choose the broken, there's something broken in us. There's something that's resonating at the same frequency. Yes. The stories are different, but the energy is the same. And we kind of undermine our own need for healing. So, for me, it was very much the same. And it has taken me literally 13 years of being single. Well, I went back to dating after 3 years, but my work really came into the world after 3 years of really self-discovery and really digging deep into myself and working. And I thought I'll share a few of my findings with the world. And to be honest, I wasn't thinking the world. I was thinking I might make a girlfriend online because it was quite a lonely life. I wasn't going out. I wasn't doing anything. I was literally just working on myself. I took 3 years out to work on myself, which is quite isolating. And I thought I'll go online. I'll do a few videos talking about what I found out about men, about myself. And I really thought I'd just change one woman's life. And, one day I had women all over the world sending me emails and telling me their stories. And before I knew it, this was my job. This was what I do for a living. And it still is a healing journey. I always say to people, I haven't arrived. I keep discovering things about myself. I keep healing. And to the degree I grow, my business grows as well. When I grow, my business
I
grows. When
love
I grow,
that.
it's this kind of effect. Yeah.
Yeah, so I talk about that a lot because, even like I was mentioning in our pre-podcast talk that, I just recently wrote a book, A Return to Radiance, but I believe that our inner self is magnificent and
Mm,
radiant, and there's so much wisdom in that, but we chase so
mm,
many things on the outer side. Like in your case, you're talking about searching love on the outside through other people rather than the love within yourself. And when you
right.
redirect that and you start
Mm,
from within, your business blooms, your life blooms. So I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that and like what you've seen in your business and in yourself and even in lives of your clients. Like I think it's really important for the listeners to know that it
mm,
really does start inside and that's not just like a yogi or a spiritual thing, but when you turn inward,
yeah.
your life really blooms.
Yes, because life is inward, right? It's all happening within us, and we're just interpreting what we're seeing and touching and feeling from within our understanding of who we are. So, these earth suits, these physical bodies, just give us an experience of ourselves within a physical world, right? But it's all within us. And for me, a lot of the people I work with always believe there's something wrong with the world outside. So, which is why my practice, particularly, even though I'm a dating coach and I do strategy and I tell people what to say and I do scripts and I do all of the practical stuff, the backbone of my business is transformation in a transformation. Because I don't care where you've been. I've got clients now who were now in magazines telling their story here in England, having middle page spreads of their story. And it always, for all my clients, starts with, all I wanted was, I'd been married 3 times. It all 3 times had failed, lost everything. My mom and dad have been together for like 50 years. My brother's been with his wife for 20. But if I, for some reason, have been divorced 3 times and I don't think I'll ever find love, and I'm in my 50s, I'll never find love. And for me, it starts with, okay, then let's do the work. Let's take a journey. Let's take a journey to you, because I believe that you are home, and we're always looking for home in others, right? We're looking for home in a partner.
Yeah.
We're looking
Yeah.
for home in our children. And so few of us have met ourselves. And I always say to people, gosh, if you would meet yourself, you'd fall madly and deeply in love with who you are. And when my clients do that, when they finally meet themselves and give themselves permission to be who they are, their light and dark selves, the bitch in them, the bully in them, whatever they are, whatever they've judged themselves to be, their shadow self, their light self, and introduce themselves to themselves. It's a 3-month journey. I always say I took my 3-year journey and I condensed it to 3 months for everybody. And it's called the Soulmate Attraction System course, but they soon eventually realized the soulmate was always themselves.
I
And the
love
only,
that so
yeah.
much.
And if they would, when they meet themselves, which is such a surprise for them, because if they're really thinking, I'm going to meet my soulmate, I'm going to meet this amazing guy,
And you're like, plot
this
twist.
amazing woman, I'm going to meet this amazing woman, I'm going to meet this amazing guy, and I tell them, yeah, let's write about that person and let's make sure we know exactly, and we do all this stuff and we're excited, believe you're going to have that. Now let's take a journey. And when they take that journey, they realize that they're in love with themselves, that this love they've been seeking from outside of them is within. And then I always say, once we get to that vibrational frequency, right? When we get to that vibrational level, then naturally your person on that level finds you. So where women are going on 20, 30, 100, 200 days to meet a man, with me, you're going to go on 2 or 3 or 4, because you're already on such a high vibrational frequency of self-love. Who doesn't want to be with somebody who loves themselves? Who
Oh my
doesn't want to
God,
be a part
so
of
beautiful.
that
And
part?
when you love yourself, your boundaries are tighter. I'm
Yeah,
sure a lot of that stuff comes into your work too,
yeah.
but when you love yourself, you're not going to bleed out all over the place,
No,
for lack of a
no.
better
Yeah,
analogy. But,
yeah.
but it's true. Like, I mean, I had been divorced as well, and I
Mhm.
remember loving him, but feeling like it was never enough.
Right.
And I kept losing my energy and losing, like, I had to
Mm,
give all of me and it wasn't reciprocated. So at some point it feels exhausting. And I'm sure you
mhm.
get women coming to you, like you said, like, is it me? But they're also coming like probably drained and just like, I don't know what to
Absolutely.
do.
And here's the thing, really good hearted people have the hardest time with relationships. You
Yes.
know, because we believe deeply that we will get what we give, right? If I can really show you love, really show up for you, meet your needs, be intuitive about your needs, then it's going to be reciprocated. But in relationships, that part, that giving part, it should be for ourselves. It should be good to give. But how people treat us is how we teach them to treat us. It's how we show them we ought to be treated, and the boundaries we set, the standards we set, the skills of being able to say no, not this time, not now, and having nice ways of saying no. That's another
Yes.
thing as well. Because we always feel like I can't set those boundaries. So what ends up happening is when you are in a relationship and you treat people the way they want to be treated, most people believe that they're that special. I'm that special that she treats me that good. Oh, I must be a special person. I must be a lovely person to be showered upon with love, not understanding that they're a good person. They love out of their goodness, right? So when we are in relationships, what we have to do is learn the art, especially good people, because good people end up really drained because they just keep giving. And when they don't get it back, they think, I didn't give enough. I'm going to give even more. Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
give
that's what I
enough.
was saying. It's
I'm
like,
going
oh,
to
you
give
kind of
more.
like I can
Exactly.
do this, and you go in and you find
Yeah,
more
and you
strength
dig
and more.
deep. Yeah. You're more patient. And
Yeah,
then the abuse or the whatever's going on in that relationship, he just
it
thinks or she just
intensifies.
thinks,
Yeah.
oh, I'm getting away with it, right? And then you think, I didn't love them enough. I didn't give enough. I can dig deeper, right? Until you have self-abandoned.
See,
You
I love that you just said that. And I'm just going to pause you real fast because
sure.
listeners, like relationships, I've seen people who have healthy relationships, like romantic relationships, but then find jobs where it's toxic. The relationships at
Mm,
work are toxic. And then vice versa. Maybe work is great and then it's their personal
right.
relationships. But at the end of the day, you just said a word that's really important to me. And I just was kind of wanting to expand upon this for the listeners. You said self-abandonment.
Mm,
When you don't have self love, and like it's sometimes it's not even self love. Like I have found a lot of women that love themselves,
mm-hmm,
but they don't know how to give self nourishment, self like protection, just like
mm-hmm,
all those things that you're talking about. So
mm-hmm.
there's a love for themselves, but there's no boundaries, there's no structure for what that
Right,
looks like. So there's a
right.
constant, like you said, giving, whether
Yeah,
it's to work or to their
yeah,
kids.
yeah.
Sometimes it's to the kids too, and not the
Right.
partner. But there's, definitely a few big pillars where women specifically, but men do it too,
Mm,
do this type of stuff, and then they end up, like you were saying, in self-abandonment. And
mm.
so I'd like you to describe for the listeners from your perspective what that might look like, so maybe they can have some self-awareness. Am I doing that? So maybe they have an opportunity to stop.
Self abandonment usually exists in the realms of boundaries because boundaries are where I start and stop and where you begin. So let's say we're having a disagreement. Maybe I did something that was truly authentic. You asked me to pick up something for you and I was super busy and I just couldn't because I got a lot of things. Oh, I didn't want to. It's all good. I wanted to spend my weekend not doing that. And then in my authentically say to you, you know what, Becca, I really can't today. I really need to rest. And then Becca's upset. At that point, I have the choice to be in my integrity, to protect my authenticity, and allow you and make room and hold space for you to be upset. It's okay for Becca to be upset. When we self abandon, we say, okay, my needs don't matter. My rest doesn't matter. What matters is that Becca feels better about me. What matters is that I preserve Becca's feelings about me. I want Becca to feel better, which is what is called codependency, right? And so now I was going to rest. Maybe it's the only day I'm going to rest. Now I've self abandoned for Becca. And now Becca kind of owes me. She doesn't know she owes me, but she kind of owes me. She's going to have to pay me back. So now we've signed this unconscious contract that we all do in relationships. So I've made the sacrifice for you and I'm kind of holding a little bit of resentment, but I'm going to call for that favor tomorrow. But maybe Becca doesn't feel she owes me, right? Maybe Becca does. And then we have this toxic kind of unhealthy dynamic of owing. Whereas the healthy thing to do is to give Becca permission to be upset with me. That it's okay that you're not happy with me. I'm going to allow myself to sit in that. I'm going to allow myself to feel whatever that feels, maybe even process it. What am I feeling right now? Is it shame? Is it guilt? Is it fear? What do I fear? What am I guilty about? When did this start? Is it really about Becca? And so I get to work on myself and Becca gets to realize, okay, when Chengi needs a rest, and she says she needs a rest, I have to respect that because she's not going to change her mind. So now we have a healthy relationship where I will say, not this time, Becca, I'm really tired. And Becca goes, okay, Chengi, no worries. And guess what? Let's have lunch on Tuesday. Now we have
Yes.
a healthy relationship, right? In
That's such a
friendship.
beautiful
Yeah.
example. Such a
Yeah.
beautiful example.
Yeah. That's
I
pretty
just,
much it.
yeah, I think it's just healthy. Like we talk, and I listen to a lot of podcasts and audiobooks and stuff like that too. And these concepts are thrown out, but sometimes the example's not strong. And that's why I wanted to pause you. And I just love everything that you shared.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
I want to ask a different question, but it kind of
Mhm.
springs off this is why are you so passionate about your work?
I'm saving myself. I heard a really wise woman say, never do anything for anyone, do it for yourself. And it sounded weird, but I got it eventually. I am passionate about healing every part of me. And I believe that every single person that comes to me represents a part of me that still needs healing. And so the passion comes from loving myself. So when I see myself in you, then I have to say, I have to help you heal because we're going to heal together. We're going to heal these parts of me together. And so I've always desired to, one of the things as a child and as a woman that I've craved above everything else was to be truly loved. I think we all do. But for me, I was raised in a family of 7 and I was number 6. And my mom was going through a horrible divorce with my dad. And that meant that I spent a lot of time alone. I remember kind of in therapy thinking, gosh, I was always alone. And that little girl inside of me desperately wanted to belong, desperately wanted to be loved. And I know the pain of not having that need met for so long. And there's a difference between knowing you are loved and feeling loved. So I knew I was loved, but I didn't feel loved. And so I've journeyed through the world with this big hole in my heart. And I really believe that our pain is where our purpose lies, right? And so
Right.
for me, the empathy, the passion is I don't want anyone to ever live in the world never knowing that there's an abundance of love that we're born with, stored with deep within ourselves, an ever flowing spring of love that we can get into, that we can resource from at any point. And so my passion comes from I just don't want anyone to hurt because when you hurt, I see my hurt. It reminds me of my pain. So it's really to do with my own trauma. It's got to do with my own woundedness. And instead of allowing the woundedness to cripple me, I've decided that it's going to become the reason I bring healing to the world in whatever capacity.
I love that so
Yeah.
much. And I just want to expand upon that for a second for the
Mm,
listeners. So you heard Chingy say that her pain is what fuels her purpose, to
mm,
paraphrase, right? And I have found that in myself as well. So listeners, it's not that you have to have an answer for this today, but maybe this is a good reflection question for you is how
mm.
can your pain fuel your purpose?
Yeah.
Because just like I was tearing as you were sharing your passion because I felt the authenticity coming
Oh,
through.
thank you.
And it made me think too, like, I shared a little bit with you again in the pre interview piece, but my parents have passed away. And
Mm,
when my parents were born, they were full time musicians. So I grew up in this beautiful environment where like music and dancing and love and laughter and all this stuff, took place. But then life happened and they had to get careers because they had ended up 2 kids and were expensive. So here comes career, work, bills, responsibility. And then that's why I call it radiance. Like I saw their radiance start to dim out to the point that
yeah.
at separate times they each have passed away.
Right.
And so I witnessed my parents disconnect from themselves.
Mm,
And so there's the pain I carry from losing them as a
mm,
daughter, but there's a deeper pain that I have from watching them fade out over
right.
time. And so, same where I was like, oh, I can sit in this pain, or I can turn this pain to purpose, and I can go inward and I can make sure my fire, my flame is bright. And in
Right.
doing so, maybe I can help others brighten their flame.
Right.
And it's quite an honor, I feel, that when we do enough work on ourselves without trying to, the outcome is positively impacting other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a responsibility, right, to do the work on ourselves because somebody's waiting for us to heal. I was saying the same thing to my coach, one of my coaches the other day, and I said to her, don't allow yourself to get stuck here because somebody's waiting for you to get unstuck.
It's so
Literally.
beautiful. And that's
Someone
such
is
a great
waiting.
message for the listeners.
Yeah.
Somebody is waiting for you to get unstuck.
Yeah.
Somebody is. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. So we have about 5 minutes left. I want to ask you another question. I
Mhm.
actually have two questions for you. The first one is, what is a current aha or lesson that's up for you right now?
Oh, that's a good one. I am going through a transition of courage, strangely. I really am naturally more reclusive and I like to be left alone and hidden, even though I've got a big public persona. It's really a persona. My kind of truer nature is more reclusive. And I am realizing that the world is safe. Really weird realization and aha moment, right? But the world is safe. And that came through doing some trauma work with my counselor the other day. And I realized that I was still feeling the world wasn't safe. So I was okay behind a camera because it's just me and my camera. I'm okay with a few group of people and I'm okay with my community. I don't really get to touch them. They're always behind the screen. And it occurred to me the world is safe. And so I decided, right, I'm
I gotta get
leaving
out
where
of
I
there.
am. I'm traveling the world. I'm going to be a digital nomad. I'm going to live in different parts. So I've really been courageous. I'm making a big, bold move because finally I realized that the world is safe.
It's
It's, and I can navigate
beautiful.
it. Yeah.
Well,
Isn't
I
that
can't
fun?
see. I'm going to follow you and I'm going to see all the places you go.
Totally.
I want to ask another question and then we'll go into closing just so you can share all your information with the audience. What is an empowering statement or message that you have for the listeners?
Empowering message. You are your soulmate. You're your soulmate. You're your hero. It's all there. I came from being a struggling single mom with 3 jobs to running a successful world class business without having to do anything outside of me, but just doing the work inside of me. So you are your own soulmate. You are the love of your life. You are your hero. You are your champion. And when you get that one piece, that little nugget, you're going to start to attract people who vibrate on that same level. And before you know it, you've got a team.
Yes, that was so beautiful. I'm like, yay. I love talking to you. I'm like, we can keep going. We can keep going.
Again.
So, all right. So let's pivot to how can the listeners follow you, get in touch with you, share a little bit about how to stay in touch.
Oh, yay. I am at the Black Swan Relationship Academy. The Black Swan Relationship Academy. So on all my handles, that's on Instagram, that's on YouTube, that's on all platforms. You will find me at the Black Swan Relationship Academy or Chengi Tobun. If you Google me, something is going to come up, I'm sure. But that's how you can stay in touch. But definitely my website, blackswanrelationshipacademy.com, if you want to get some help, whether it's courses or a call or anything that you need, if it's relationships, we got you. So you can definitely see me there and get in touch there. So that's how you get me.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. I could talk to you for probably hours. I'm like,
Bet. Me
I
too.
don't want the 30 minutes to end. But it was a really great conversation and I appreciate you going deep because that's where the transformation happens on the inside.
Mm.
And I really appreciate that we got to spend about 30 minutes talking about how the listeners can really turn their pain to purpose, go inside to get the outer world that they are searching for. So thank you for such a beautiful episode.
Thank you for having me.